Hey everyone, Austin back again with another Longplay video. This time it's going to be Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. Now this was a Capcom developed game, unlike the Sega Genesis version of Aladdin, which was published by Virgin Interactive. And yeah, this is kind of a sort of cutesy platformer based on the movie of the same name. All the stages and so forth that you experience in this game are also taken pretty much from the movie. And I've already actually jumped in the game here, as you can see. I didn't really waste any time getting into it. And this is basically taken from the first part in the original Aladdin movie by Disney, the cartoon from the early 90s. And yeah, it's a pretty straightforward platformer. You can, as you can see, sort of latch onto hooks. You could also latch onto ledges, much like in Prince of Persia. Now, the game does have a few elements like that, but it's not quite the same still. And then there's a lot of running, jumping, and hopping on enemies' heads. It's not a very overly complicated platformer, you know, pretty par for the course for the early to mid 90s. And yeah, fun little game. Maybe not the best of the Super Nintendo Capcom efforts, but I think it's still a solid game. Possibly worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of the original Aladdin cartoon. As far as anyone else, well, yeah, you might want to give it a shot, see if you like the game, and, you know, you may or may not. I actually used to play this game a lot as a kid. It was one of those games I think one of my friends had, and either one of my friends had it or I had it. I don't remember. I've had so many games over the years. But I did, you know, have it acquired in my collection for quite some time as a result, or at least was able to borrow it from people frequently enough to where it felt like my own. And so as a result, I played the game a lot. Got pretty good at it, but, you know, and I was able to beat it, you know, relatively easily back in the day. Sometimes I'd get through the game without dying or something like that. And playing it now in 2014, January 2014, actually, when I recorded this session. And, you know, it took me a couple play sessions to kind of get used to the game again. It's very slippery in the controls. For instance, Aladdin, every time you just slightly tap forward, just to sort of like inch your way along, he always goes a whole footstep and sort of like slides as he does it. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you play the game and just try to like tap your way forward, just, you know, foot by foot, and he will still attempt to run. And, you know, he'll get very slippery, and it's hard to be, it's a little difficult to become, it's a little difficult to be very precise in this game. And, so, yeah. Now, I did want to actually preface this with the usual disclaimer. This is not going to be a perfect run of this game, and I actually wanted to do that before jumping into the game, but, in this long play session, I just literally powered on the cartridge, hit start, and just, you know, started pounding away at it. So yeah, this is not going to be a perfect run as usual. You know, my long plays, unless it's like Ninja Gaiden or Castlevania or something, my long plays aren't usually perfect runs, you know, and then this is not a walkthrough, this is not a how to get every single red gem in the entire game. It's not that kind of video. It's just me playing through the game as quickly as I can. And yeah, I do die a couple times along the way. Some really stupid deaths, mind you. I actually should have been able to beat this game without dying, because again, it's not really a difficult game, especially when it's fresh in your mind and you're familiar with it, just like I was when doing this video. So yeah, not a perfect run. I do die later on, and I'll give you a heads up when I'm about to die, so you know when that's going to happen. One other thing I wanted to mention in this playthrough is that I've actually chopped out all the cutscenes in between each stage, except for the ending. So you get the whole ending as you would, you know, if you were playing it yourself. But I have chopped out the cinematic quote-unquote segments just to shorten the length of this video. You know, those segments can be a little... they're basically recreations of, you know, scenes in the film, and unfortunately, it's mostly just stills. There's very little actual animation, and so they're kind of... I don't know, I feel they're kind of tacked on just to make the game longer than it actually is. I mean, this is only about a 30-minute long game, and technically it could probably actually be a little bit less if you don't die. Like, I died twice, and I think I beat the game exactly around the 30-minute mark, And that's 30 minutes counting the bonus stages that you can get to, the bonus games, and then that's also counting, you know, the end of each stage where it sort of racks up how many gems you've received or picked up along the way, etc., etc. So, in terms of actual gameplay time, this is really only like a 20-minute long game. It's a very short game, you know, especially when you know what you're doing. Not very complicated at all. So, but yeah, I didn't want this to be an hour-long video and, you know, half of that time be the cutscenes. You know, if you really want to see the cutscenes, I mean, there's other videos out there, I'm sure. Or you could just, I would suggest watching the original Disney Aladdin movie. I mean, in terms of cartoons now, I guess technically you could call it a classic. It's a great old animated film. You got Robin Williams as the genie, which there's the genie right as I said that. So it's a great little Disney cartoon. I definitely recommend checking that out if you're into that sort of thing. But yeah. So now that I'm done with all the disclaimers and whatnot, and we're already like almost a quarter of the way through the video, yeah, I'll go ahead and just start commenting on the game and the gameplay itself. Now, you know, revisiting this game for, well, this long play session, I wasn't really feeling it. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but yeah, I wasn't really feeling it. I actually, the night before recording this session, I loaded up the game, and I played it a few times, trying to get used to it, and I was dying left and right just because of the slippery controls, and because I just wasn't used to it, and, you know, and even when I did get used to it, I beat it, and in this play session, I was, you know, I was, well, obviously playing it, and I was playing it pretty decently, but for some reason, I still wasn't really feeling it, even though I was playing okay. You know, and I was used to everything again. It's just something about the game. It was one I really enjoyed as a kid, but as an adult, I'm just kind of like, meh, it's alright, but it's not one I really want to spend an afternoon with. You know, it's the kind I'll do just to do a video for you guys, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's one of those games I think that was probably best left in the past for me. I mean, again, I really liked it as a kid. Big, colorful visuals, pretty cool stages for the most part, like the next stage in particular, where you're pretty much inside the genie's lamp. That's still kind of a cool stage, but at the same time, it's not really complicated. It's really actually kind of easy once you get used to it. Like, yeah, I think that's the problem, is just the game is too easy, and, you know, when you die in this game, it's really completely your fault. Aren't really any cheap sections in the game at all. I mean, everything is very straightforward. To the point where I hadn't played this game in years, and I loaded it up, and on some of these later stages especially, I was just able to bowl through them with not a single problem, and I hadn't played the game in years. Now, whereas other games I've done recent long plays and let's plays on, like, oh, I don't know, like, I guess Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo. I was trying to do a long play on that. That game was kicking my ass. So, you know, but that game's actually kind of difficult at points. But this game, I hadn't played it probably even longer than the last time I played Turtles in Time, and I just blazed right through it. So, without too much trouble. So, I don't know, something about this game, I think, again, it's just one of those games that's best left in the past for me. Now, you might feel completely differently. You might love this game, and my comments, as usual, aren't out there to offend anybody. It's just kind of how I feel, and it's, I'm doing a long play on it, and I'm just kind of talking about my feelings about the game, as usual. So here we go. We are probably officially about 30% away. I can't even talk. 30% the way through the game. We are making quick progress, rapid progress, again, thanks to chopping out the cutscenes and whatnot. So the game will flow a little bit quicker than it normally would if you were playing it solo. And yeah, this stage can actually be a little tricky. You've got to just take your time. You know, much like other simplistic platformers, if you just take your time, you should have no problem getting through these sections. You know, those you know, sort of pointy rocks in the lava, those are the ones that you can sort of hop on And you could just keep hopping on them over and over. They don't ever lower down or anything like that, except for those ones right there. And pretty simplistic stuff. Now, this game would actually be a lot more difficult if there was no, like, latching gameplay element where you can, like, grab on the ledges and things like that. The game would actually, I think, be a lot more difficult. Fortunately, you can latch onto ledges, but, you know, I think they probably should have designed more stages around, I guess, vertically climbing sections where you had to latch on left and right. But there's not really a whole lot of segments where you have to latch on to anything, unless you want to get, like, some special items. Like, there are these gems you can get throughout the game, and the red gems, I believe, if you get a certain amount, they actually raise your health bar, which is, your health is denoted by the hearts at the top left-hand corner of the screen. And by the end of this playthrough, I want to say I have 6 hearts in my... you know, up there. And I'm pretty sure you can probably max out at 8 hearts. I don't know if that's the actual max, but it just seems like it would fit 8 hearts perfectly. So I'm assuming that you max out at 8 hearts. So that's kind of nice. There is an incentive to try to pick up all the red gems. And then the game also tallies up how many red gems you've had by the end of the game. So there's a possibility, I'm assuming, and I'm not 100% sure, but if you know for a fact, post a comment down below. If you get a certain amount of red gems, you might get a special ending or a special message at the end of the game or something like that. And, you know, I'm not going for the red gems in this playthrough. You know, I got a couple early on in the game, and I get a couple more later on in the game. But I'm not actively going for them because in some instances, well, I just don't know how to get them. But in other instances, I'm just like, meh, I don't really care. I just want to beat the game. And then other instances, they're kind of in sort of like death locations. Like some of the red gems are pretty tough to get, I have to admit. But most of them are relatively simple to grab, and you can get through most of the game with grabbing most of them, I'd say. Like that one right there, just hop on both of those. You just hop on those enemies, and then you can grab them. But I'm just like, I don't want to take that time. I just want to beat the game. So, but again, there is an incentive to get those red gems. And the game, if you want to make it more challenging, the goal would be to go for all of the red gems. And, you know, yeah, that would make the game a lot more challenging. But, you know, as it is, when you're not going for the red gems, the game is actually really kind of easy. And one of the other things that kind of makes the game easy is you've got this sort of cloth, and you can basically use it as sort of a parachute. And once you grab it on the first or second stage, it'll actually appear in the second stage, I believe, if you don't get it on the first stage. And by holding the R button, you'll basically just bring it out, and it'll stay out infinitely until you touch the ground. Now, you do have to be a certain height in the air before you can actually use it, so you have to be aware of that. Where sometimes, you know, if you just jump straight up and, you know, you're kind of close to the ground, it actually won't come out. So you have to be, you know, a little careful with that. But once you get flung into the air, like on these hooks right here, you could pretty much always use it, you know? And if there's a section where you're just having to go from hook to hook and there's just endless pit below you, well, if you're not sure if you're going to make proper contact with the hook, you can use your parachute, which will slow you down and then sort of automatically connect you with the hook. You know, you can kind of just like fly yourself onto the hook, and Aladdin will just latch onto it as long as I think you're holding the Y button. So, you know, having that sort of parachute thing definitely helps a lot, and it makes the game a lot easier too. You know what I think they probably should have done is they should have added difficulty modes, because I think it's pretty clear this game is geared towards children. It was definitely geared towards younger gamers, unlike the Sega Genesis version, which is a very, very difficult game. But what I think probably should have happened is there should have been a difficulty select mode, and obviously the default probably should have been normal, and this could have been normal mode, or it could have been easy mode, for all I know. And then they should have added a hard mode, and Or they could have added like a secret like pro mode or expert mode or something like that that say takes away the parachute and things like that. Which without the parachute, these levels would be a lot more challenging, to be honest with you. Like this section maybe not so much. It's not that tough, but as you can see, I just used the parachute twice in that one section just to make life a little bit easier. It slows you down so you can be more precise with where you land and so forth. See, I just used it again and again. It's like if they made a more difficult mode where you couldn't use it, I think that would, like this part right here, would be much tougher without the parachute. And hell, while you're at it, make the expert mode or whatever not allow you to latch on to ledges. Like, you have to be super precise with your jumps. But of course, that platform wouldn't have worked without being able to latch on to ledges. So, but some tweaks could have been made, I'm sure, in terms of level design. Like the level design slightly changes. So, depending on the skill level you're on, which that was relatively common for some platformers back in the day. But it would have been nice, basically what I'm saying is if they implemented something like that for, I guess, more advanced gamers and adults and so forth. Because, I think this game was probably even pretty easy for kids at the time, It's definitely a nice homage to the movie. It definitely captures sort of the spirit of the movie to a degree. The visuals are nice. The sound is alright. Nothing to write home about, I don't think. But yeah. So this level is actually the first stage where I die. And I make a really dumb mistake. On this level, the platforms that have sand rolling off the edges, you cannot latch onto those ledges if sand is rolling off the ledge. And so basically what happens is I just use the parachute, I'm just flying through the sky, and I just happen to fall next to one of those platforms, and I have to fall into an endless pit basically and die because there was no way to latch onto the ledge. So, but that was just dumb on my part. I believe that, yeah, it happens right here, just like that. And actually, I probably could have saved myself if I immediately pushed myself back and landed on that middle platform instead of trying to latch on to the right platform, but I just was not thinking. So, that was my first death. I want to say that is my only death up until basically the final boss. And, the final boss's first form, because technically Jafar has two forms. So it's like, I'm not sure what to talk about now. This game is really simple. These archers, from this point and on in the game, they actually shoot out 2 arrows. So something you have to be aware of. When I first played this game the other night, or just prior to doing this play session, I was being very careless. And I didn't realize they were shooting out 2 arrows until I just stopped and sort of analyzed them. And I was like, oh, okay, they always shoot out 2 arrows. So now, much like the Genesis version of Aladdin, you do have apples in this game. And the apples come in very handy. They'll take out tiny enemies in one hit, such as the little flying things with the pots on them. And, other small enemies like that, you can use apples to take them out in one hit. Apples will also stun your regular human enemies as well, except for the small guys, the skinny guys that have two swords in their hands and they throw them out at you. You can't stun those guys with apples. They'll actually chop the apples in half and when you try to toss them at those enemies. And you'll see those enemies, I think, by the end of this stage or on next stage. Definitely on next stage for sure. So, but the archers, I highly recommend staying back from a distance and, well, just using your apples. And I believe I used my apples on a couple of them here, like right there. So, oftentimes the archers, they shoot their arrows up. So, as simple as this game is, you can still get very careless and die very quickly. So, and that was actually happening to me on the very first stage. They're the sword guys. There you go. And you can actually hop on the swords as they throw them at you. And here's Abu. He's hiding in the mummy statue thing. And then that's it. But yeah, in my first playthrough of this, I actually had to stop after the first level because I actually died on the first stage because I was being very reckless with the archers and jumping in when I wasn't supposed to and getting hit by their arrows. So it's always good to use the apples and stun them before kind of going in on them. So... So this is sort of a bonus stage. It's really just to collect gems. And again, this is basically the scene in the movie where Aladdin and Jasmine are flying around, blah, blah, blah. He's just wished himself to become a prince and yada, yada, yada. And then the next level, we're basically on the last stage. And then we beat the game. Like I said, this is not a very long game. I mean, the longest portion of the video is going to be the ending theme. That literally takes, like... It takes like 6 to 8 minutes to get through that ending, credits and everything, so... a huge chunk of this video is just the ending itself, so... Which I really should just chop the ending too, but I'll leave the ending. I always leave the endings for you guys. And normally I don't chop out the intermissions either. I'll just either skip through them, and you'll see me skipping through them, but I'm actually literally chopping them out of this, this play session through my video editing software. Now, funny enough, I actually got every single red crystal on this stage. I don't know if I actually got every red crystal or if it's at the end of the stage it... I don't know how gathering your red crystals works. Like at the end of the stage here, it's going to tally up your red crystals. And I don't know if those are the amount of red crystals per stage or if those are just how many you've gotten up to a certain point. And then once you get to the maximum, it gives you a new heart. That might be how it works. I'm not 100% certain, though. So I should test that theory. But not really. I don't feel like playing this game again. This will be one of those games I play once every 10 years, probably. I mean, the last time I really played the game and beat it was probably the, you know, the mid to late 90s, or more, actually probably the mid 90s. And it's a cartridge I've actually owned on and off throughout the years. Well, at least a few years back, it wasn't a particularly expensive game. But I would still never really go back and play it, you know. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's probably one of those games just best left in the past for me. I mean, I didn't have a blast doing this play session, to be honest with you. Which is actually unlike a lot of my long plays. A lot of my long plays I do because I really want to play the game again. But Aladdin, I was just kind of like, meh, just doing it just to do it, you know? Mark it off the list, so to say. I actually, you know, to sort of sidetrack a little bit, I actually did decide to finally make a huge list of, like, all the Let's Plays and long plays I would think I would be able to do in the future. And so, this is one of those games that I knew I could beat, and so it was on my list I just made, and I was like, you know, I'm going to go ahead and tackle it. So... And here we are now. Yada da 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 yada da 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 blah. Yeah, like that red gem up top. The guy was throwing his swords up, and you'd have to jump on his swords to get the red gem. And so, you know, the red gems, obviously, you could tell that their placement gets trickier as the game goes on. But, you know, again, I'm just like, I don't really care that much. I just want to beat the game. And, same with the golden beetles. You know, there's a few I missed early on in the game, but they're actually really easy to grab. You know, they always come down low enough on the screen to where you can usually just jump up and get them. There are some sections in the game where you kind of have to hop on an enemy or something like that to grab it, but yeah, I don't even really go for the gold beetles because I know it's going to take me to the break time bonus stage, and I don't really need the lives or anything like that. I know I'm not going to die that often, although I did want to get the genie icon and see what it did, because I don't remember what it did, but I wasn't able to in this play session, unfortunately. If you guys know what the genie icon does, also post a comment below for me. Let me know what happens if you get that. I don't know if it's like double the continues, or it gives you even more extra lives, or if it's like you get a continue and an extra life, or I have no idea. If it lets you skip the stage, that would be pretty cool. But no, it probably doesn't do that. Now, this part could be a little tricky. You just have to sort of wait for the fire to go down. And as you can see here, I'm just swinging and swinging and swinging. You know, as long as you hold that Y button, you'll be fine. You can just keep swinging all day long if you want. And my life is low, so at this point I was kind of just hoping there would be... I got another extra life. This game really throws extra lives at you too, by the way. I mean... I probably got 3 or 4 extra lives throughout the course of the game just from them sitting out in the open, especially early on in the game, or them being inside like treasure chests or something like that. So I ended up getting an extra life when I really just wanted some meat to refill my health. Now you got some hooks in the ceiling here, which sort of diverts that platform, that moving platform. There's my meat. Alright, there we go. 2 hooks up top. Again, you want to divert it around so it'll take you to the right. Over these spikes. And that's it. Alright, now we're basically at the final boss. Or technically the first form of the final boss. And this is where I die a second time. Really, really stupid death. I was actually kind of just trying to experiment here. And as you can see in my second time fighting him, I just, you know, I don't even think I get hit once. I might get hit once, but, or twice. But, yeah. Basically what he does is he throws down his sort of scepter, and you have to jump over the lightning that shoots out from it, and then you have to jump on the scepter, and then jump on Jafar. And then just rinse and repeat. When he throws out these, you know, the flying guys with the pots on their heads, you can, I would just sit back, use your apples, destroy the pots. Although if you time it just right, and this happens on my second playthrough on him actually, or my second attempt, you can actually hop on the pots, which will take you high enough to land on Jafar's head, and that's actually what I was trying just there, but instead I got hit, and then he put out a second row of pots. Flying pots. Strange enemies, I don't even remember them in the movie. I mean, they might be, but yeah, it's kind of an odd enemy choice. But I guess they needed something, right? To make the game more, well, video game-like. What seems to work is when he's doing his lightning bolts to the ground, you can actually just push your way all the way to one side of the screen or another. And it seems like the lightning bolts never strike on the far left or far right portions of the screen. It's always somewhere kind of around the area where that gold snake is in the background. So, something to be aware of if you're at this guy. So basically you hit him, don't sit in the middle of the screen, you could get hit. So... just like that. Now I do get hit here, but I also get a free hit on him. There we go. That probably wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. So if you have some life, you can try to experiment there if you want. And now we are technically on our way to the actual final stage, technically the final battle, or yeah, final battle. And I have to say, this is probably one of the easiest bosses in video game history. And when I got here in this long play, this was the first time I've gotten to this in probably, 15 to 20 years or so. When I did my warm-up sessions, I got to the first form of Jafar, and then I turned the game off. So, this is fighting him for the first time in a long, long time. But I managed to beat him really without any problems. Very, very easy. That was a bad move. See, his main body just goes up so high, he just sits there, and it just propels you up high enough to jump on his head. And he doesn't move, he doesn't do anything, he doesn't really swipe at you except for that attack. And then he throws out some eggs, and that's it. And I've just beaten the final boss. It's so easy. I literally think it's one of the easiest final bosses I've ever fought in a video game. It's definitely up there as being one of the easiest, that's for sure. And you have some brooding music, and really it's just because that wasn't actually me getting hit. That was just a part of the story. And this is the first part of the ending. So from this point on, guys, is the full ending to the game. I told you this game wasn't very long. So we just passed like the 32-minute mark or something like that. Or not even, like 31-minute mark. So yeah, Disney's Aladdin. You know, this game shares a lot of, you know, similar quality traits as other Capcom games for the Super Nintendo. You know, you got your sort of colored text, you've got your symphonic style music, which is actually very reminiscent of Super Ghouls and Ghosts. You know, you've got some decent graphical effects here and there. However, there's just not, you know, because they were using movie assets, essentially, taking backgrounds based on, or making backgrounds based on the movie, it doesn't seem like they were able to get that creative with, you know, crazy backgrounds and whatnot. So you don't see anything quite as cool as you did in, say, Super Ghouls and Ghosts or something like that. Or even, like, to an extent, like, Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. That was a good Capcom game. I'll eventually do a long play or let's play on that. So yeah, they were kind of confined, or at least they chose to be confined by, you know, following the story of the movie. Now, the Sega Genesis version kind of does the same thing. It goes by the story in terms of, like, the level progression and whatnot, but I think it's been a while since I played that version, but there seemed like there was less of a focus on it. Or I could be wrong. It's been a few years since I played the Genesis version. That is one of those games I would like to cover, though, eventually, but I've never been able to beat the Genesis version, unlike this one. Unlike this one, which I can probably beat with my eyes closed. So, but the Genesis version, I'd have to say, is probably the better playing game. It's just definitely more action-oriented. You actually have a sword, and you attack enemies by swiping at them. You've also got your apples. I don't think there's any hopping on enemies' heads in that game. It's all swiping with the sword. So definitely much more action-oriented. The Genesis version does have a few elements of, like, climbing on ropes and things like that, which you don't have in this one. So there's actually a bunch of comparison videos out there and reviews. I think even the Happy Video Game Nerd did an episode on Aladdin for the Genesis versus Aladdin for Super Nintendo, and I don't remember if he looked at either one favorably. I don't think he looked at the Super Nintendo one that favorably, aside from, like, the visuals and whatnot. But I don't remember him looking at the Genesis version favorably either, probably because of the difficulty or something like that. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen that video. So, yeah. So with that, guys, you know, we're basically at the ending. Let me know if you played this game. Let me know if you enjoy this game. Let me know if you don't enjoy this game. Also, shoot me some tips if you are familiar with the game in terms of, like, the red gems. What do they do exactly aside from just building your health bar? Do they give you something special at the end of the game? You know, and yeah, let me know your thoughts on the game in general. Also, let me know your thoughts on some other Disney games. You know, like The Lion King. The Lion King was one I played a lot, kind of around the same time as this, but that was a very difficult game. And also, let me know your thoughts on the Genesis version of Aladdin while you're at it. So, let me know which version you prefer, so to say. And if anyone posts a comment down below saying I have never been able to beat this game, it is so hard, just don't post that comment, please. It's no offense, just I mean, this game is so easy, it's ridiculous. I mean, like I mentioned previously in this video, if you get careless, you will die. It's that simple. But don't get careless. So, you know, play smart. It's my mantra. Play smart. Play smart, not stupid. Sega. That should have actually been like Sega's slogan. Or Nintendo could have used that slogan when they were in their 90s sort of like badass, play it loud phase, where everything was just in your face. Almost reaching the end. Almost reaching the end. So, sound effect. Ani. A he, a key, I can't even read it. Is that a K or an H or an N? I have no idea. Advisor, Professor F. Really? What? You can tell that they still haven't gotten, by this point in video game history, some of those Japanese still went by weird names in the credits of their games. Especially Capcom games. Capcom games tended to have tended to do that. Special thanks, Capcom all staff and you. Aw, thank you. Yeah, see, total red gems 37, which is probably about half of all of them in the game, or not quite. I'm gonna guess there's probably 50 or 60 of them total. Again, if you're familiar with this game, or if you're an Aladdin expert, let me know what those do. So, and that's it, guys. The end. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. As usual, I'm going to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will be back with some more long plays sometime soon. And until then, guys, take care.